Hello, I'm David Hunt and welcome to The Art Hunter. Okay, inspirational, courageous, these are just a few of the words to describe my guest today. He brings so much colour and life to his artwork, it's incredible. An award winner and national and internationally known, and he's had at least 60 solo shows. There's this thing called art opera, which we've got to talk about. The Dalai Lama we've got to talk about as well. And he's published several books as well. Anthony, hello and welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Overachiever, come on, look at you.
Well, obsessive compulsive, I think, is the word. But yeah, certainly just driven to keep doing something all the time.
Right.
You know, but I think, you know, it comes from, I think, when I was younger, I had a very difficult childhood, abusive childhood, and created a feeling that I was worth nothing unless I was doing something. And I think that's driven me my whole life.
But also you've had real trouble with your health, but that's made you even more determined to continue with your art. Is that true?
Well, I was always determined to keep making things. I always had plenty of ideas, but certainly my health has been tough. I was diagnosed with leukemia in 2014. I had a bone marrow transplant in 2015. That gives you a disease called graft versus host disease. It's my new immune system, which belonged to somebody else, rejecting my body.
Whoa.
So it fuses up my fascia. So I have trouble walking. It attacks my eyes. My eyes are always really sore. It attacks my mouth. I hardly produce any saliva, hence I keep sipping the water. It's a brutal disease. So I'm in chronic pain all the time. Like
Wow.
you've seen the scars on my legs. I've got those scars in my stomach as well. And
Wow.
then all the drugs they gave me to stop that disease from killing me, because it was about to, destroyed my kidneys. So I ended up on life support for 2.5 years.
Oh, Anthony.
And then had a kidney transplant about 15 months ago.
And how are you feeling today, for instance?
I feel crap every day, you know. I struggle with fatigue and I struggle with pain. I've got pain all the time
Yeah.
that I've got to deal with. And it flares up. I get shooting pains through my legs. All my nerves are damaged from the disease.
Yeah.
It's constant, you know.
Right.
And my eyes get really sore, especially my left eye. Sometimes it goes on me and I can't see out of it. I can't use it. I've got to just give up with my left eye using it.
How does it affect your art? Because you know, a lot of the pieces you do, as we're looking around you, and I'm sure they'll be flashed up on the screen, you know, you make so much art. You know, like you've just had this huge exhibition where, you know, it was in room after room, a solo exhibition. Where do you get the energy and the drive to produce all this art?
Well, for me, it's like my third book I hope to get out soon. I've been working for 3 years. It's called The Spirit Endures Once the Body Cannot, and that's exactly how it is for me. There's a will there, and I think for me, my will is driven by my spiritual body, not my physical body. It drives it through my physical body, and so I just keep getting up and keep going because I'm driven to. And I don't really make my work, which I think I've mentioned before. I understand fully, I've understood for 30 years now that I don't make it.
So what happens? You stand in front of a canvas and all of a sudden you disappear until you've finished a piece?
Well, I go back and forth between pieces, but I just get this drive to just start. And when I start, I don't know what it's going to look like when I'm finished. You know, it just happens. And I can't explain why I make the characters that I do and where they come from, because I don't know. And I'm kidding myself if I do. So on an ego level, I can't say that I own it. So if someone goes, I don't like your work, then I go, it doesn't really matter to me because I didn't make it anyway. Because I'm not really one that plans everything out, draws everything out, and then makes exactly what I drew out. I don't try and over-control anything.
Yeah.
And because I've been doing it that way for a long time as a full-time job, you just get better at just falling into it and letting it guide you. And often I say to people, I get to a point with a painting or a work where I have to stand back from it and it will tell me what to do.
Whoa.
And if I don't listen to it, the painting gets wrecked. And I've slashed paintings because I didn't listen. I get frustrated with myself for not listening, and then I've put Stanley knives through paintings.
Right. You don't paint over?
No, I usually cut out the best bits, throw them in a pile, and I'll use them in something else.
Ah, okay.
There's a recycling element going on.
Right. Now, One thing that I love about you, inspirational and courageous, is that how much time and effort you put into doing exhibitions for charities and organisations. You spend a lot of time doing that, don't you?
I do. Well, I feel like it's purposeful. And the more ill I've been, I nearly died quite a few times now, and I'm not going to be around for that much longer, I don't think. I might get a few more years if I'm lucky. But I feel, what's the purpose of being here if I can't serve other people? And that, even before I got sick, I had that mentality about serving. And I didn't want, I've sold lots of art to people who've got plenty of money, who are lovely people too, but it sits in their lounge room or their place, and not people interact with it. So the more projects I can do where people can interact from it and financially benefit from it, and even on a mental health level benefit from it, that means the world to me. That's so important.
Yeah, and this was before you were sick, well, really sick. Is the Maya windows? Tell our audience about what you did in the Maya windows on a couple of occasions, but the first one.
Well, the first one, I went to Myers thinking they weren't even going to, see me. Ended up in a meeting with them. I put this whole idea together because I had to think of something that would benefit Myers, and I wanted to work with this charity that I've already done a big project with already.
What's the charity?
TLC for Kids.
Right.
They work with children who are terminal, pretty much, or really, really ill. So I got them involved too. And I put the whole thing together and pitched it to Myers, and they were like, wow, this is great, because this is great for everybody. So they gave me the right to use all the windows in the Burke Street Mall.
Wow.
They designed them and dressed them the way I wanted it to be. Two of them were my studio, so it was a live studio. So I went in there for a week, and I made 100 paintings of this bug character that I do. I made 100 of those paintings, and it was also a social experiment because I've got a window in front of me to the audience. I wanted the audience to come along, investigate it, and look at it and go, actually, I can buy number 52, because I'd number them as I hung them on the back of the wall. And they'd come back the next day. The first day we sold 2. And then it just escalated. Next day it was 8, then it was 10, then it was 15, then it was 20. In the end, we sold 97 of them out of the window.
Wow. And
raised $24,000 for TLC for Kids.
Wow, that's amazing. So there was people standing out with the crowd that were, and the audience would say, yes, I do want that one. And so therefore the sale was being done on the street as you were painting another painting. Yeah.
Well, they'd go, I want number 22, number 44, but I had staff in the mall, and there were volunteers from the charity as well as I had my own staff out there. And then they'd come into the window and yell out to me, someone wants number 22, number 24, and if they couldn't reach it, I'd hand it to them. They'd go out to the Myers wrapping station, Myers would wrap it for them, bring it out to them, Myers would charge them for it, and they'd walk off, and they'd be waving to me the window with 2 artworks under their arm. So it was this whole social experiment. That was the main impetus of doing a project like this, was to create a theatrical interaction between the audience and me, even with a screen in front of us dividing us from each other.
Yeah. What was it? Did you actually give it a name?
It was called Art for All, Life for Everyone.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I named it.
Awesome. And there's a doco that you can check out, some of the doco. We'll be playing some of it as we're talking to you now.
There's a little doco on YouTube. It goes at 8-9 minutes.
And there must have been coverage by the TV and newspapers of the day.
All the stations were there.
Yeah.
And I invited people into the window to spend time with me in there.
Okay.
Neil Mitchell came in to hang out with me for a while, got him to do a little painting. Another guy, Peter something, who was in About a Boy with Hugh Grant. I can't remember his surname now. That's chemo for you. He came in and hung out with me too, so I invited guests in to come and hang out with me during the process of the week as well.
And then you went back into the Maya windows a bit later, talking about Neil Mitchell and Molly Meldrum. Well, what were you doing that time round?
It was a completely different project.
Yep.
I was asked to go in there and paint portraits of 4 celebrities. It was Ron Barassi, Molly Meldrum, Helen Kapelis from Channel 10 News at the time, and Vanessa Amorosi.
Right.
But I said, look, I don't really want to paint portraits of those celebrities because that's boring. That's the cliche of what an artist does. They have an easel, the subjects over here and you paint them. I said, I want to turn it into a piece of theatre. So I'll paint them into my paintings and I'll invent a painting. So I called it the construction painting. So I would construct a mobile around them. I'd be hanging fishing lines and painting eyeballs and hanging them in front of them. So they became part of this. They came in a white jumpsuit, and I'd paint them into the painting too. And over 50, I gave myself 50 minutes. I was all against time. So that's what happened. They said, yes, okay, let's do it your way. So I did 4 of them in 4 days, one each day for 4 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was that called?
That was called, it was for the Ladder Foundation to raise money for youth who were homeless, I think, at the time, through the AFL. I just called it the Construction Painting Project.
Right, fantastic.
Yeah.
What's art opera? Tell us about that.
Okay, the last production I did of that was in 2013, and I was diagnosed soon after that with leukemia. That was at Chapel Off Chapel in the main theatre. We did 10 shows of that. It was it's very multimedia extravaganza. The first incarnation of that was back in 2006, where I got, I'm totally in this concept of manifesting things, and I've become very good at it over a long period of time because I've manifested so many projects that I wanted to do. I will write the project out like it's going to happen, and then I will emotionally attach myself to it happening. And then I find at a left of field, I'll get the funding or the opportunity. And the first incarnation of the opera, I couldn't see how I was going to get it off the ground. I got contacted by the Docklands. There was a gallery out there, and I wanted to make the Docklands into an art precinct. And they said, have you got any of your performance ideas that we could do here? And I said, I've got this opera I've just written, and they didn't know what the hell I was talking about, because my script is having a scrapbook and drawing arrows and having bodies going this way, this is going to happen here, and I need a camera here, and blah, blah, blah. So I showed them my scrapbook, and they thought I was mad, but they thought, he's going to do it, he'll do it, you know. So they put money into it, and they built a little grandstand to hold a couple hundred people, and I got the whole promenade, and we put that opera on, and it was an amazing experience. I had a great little crew of dancers. We had a choreographer, who was a very close friend of mine. So we rehearsed it all and put it on, and it was very successful and very unique because it's a combination of, it's a performance art done as a piece of theatre. And then I got the chance in 2013 to do it again at Chapel Off Chapel, but this time we brought in more multimedia staff. It became a very expensive production, but I just wanted to do it to the best level I could. So
were you sick then, or were
no?
you?
It was just before I got sick.
Right.
Yeah. So we did it there, and that was an amazing experience. It was just, we got standing ovations. We had people trying to get we couldn't sell all the tickets out. And it was just an incredible experience for me, because to stand there and have a whole audience rise up as one to give you a standing ovation, I was just crying. I was covered in paint, sweat, and I was just bawling my eyes out with all my dancers next to me, and it was amazing musicians, and it was an amazing experience.
Do you think you could stage it again? You know, like it's a lot harder now because you're not, you know, like physically in shape to do it. But could you imagine it in another form?
I've thought about that a bit, about if it could be done again. I couldn't perform it.
No.
Because I just haven't got the mobility.
Yeah, sure.
I haven't got the endurance. It was exhausting. I trained really hard to be physically capable of doing that for 10 shows. But in some way it could be done again, but I'd have to probably get somebody else to play me, or to be the central painter. And they'd have to be able to paint, you know, because I create this giant face in the 50 minutes, and I fuse all the dancers into it. And the dancers all play characters, so they bring the paint to me, and every paint means something. Basically what it is, it's the artist, which is everybody, wrestling with their own sense of self. So I'm confronted with this huge big black canvas on the ground. It's 4.5 meters by 4.5 meters, and I start drawing on it with chalk. That's how the show starts. It's very hard to describe the show because it's very emotive. It's my friend Greg Long did the original score for it. The music's beautiful. So the first characters are like tribal warriors, all done up, incredible makeup and headpieces, and they bring the colour blue to me. That's the first colour, because blue in the history of art is the colour of the spirit. So their spirit's bringing me the colour of the spirit. It's to induce my spirit to act, you know, to conjure it up and get out of my mental space and into my spiritual body. So they do that. The next character that comes in is red, and he's very kind of threatening, completely different makeup and everything.
Yeah.
He represents my masculinity. Blood, war, anger, rage. So he conjures me up to attack the painting, you know, and to dispel my fears. The next character that comes in is yellow. Yellow is very playful, and yellow is to induce me to play, to not lose my sense of play, because all creation comes from play. The next character is white. So white is very beautiful, and the music's very beautiful, and white represents my attachment to anything in my life. It symbolises romantic love, but it's more about attachment. That everything we attach ourselves to, we lose. That's the way the nature of it is. And the more we attach ourselves to things, the more we suffer if we lose it. During that piece, the music changes because my character becomes afraid of what I'm doing, and I lose my confidence. And this wicker man appears with these giant hands, and I constructed all this out of recycled timber. It's quite large at this head, the mouth opens and closes. All the dancers rise, and it goes into this heavy metal soundtrack, and they activate the wicker man. And the wicker man symbolises my inner fear. Yeah. And it stops me. It kidnaps White and imprisons her in its body, because it's got timber slats. You can see her through it. And the giant hands that they activate push her into the body, and she becomes entrapped in there. As soon as I dispel my fear, the wicker man explodes in slow motion, and all the parts cascade into the sides of the theatre. And I go back. I paint her into the middle of it, and I, in a very romantic, beautiful way, with my gestures of my brush on her, painting her, and that's my farewell to that attachment. I have to let go of it, because the next thing that's coming into my life is the end of my life. So the next character is black. So black represents my death, impending death. So I have this confrontation with black, and then I overcome black because I overcome the fear of dying. And then after that symbolises my death. Yeah. What's left is this giant portrait. All the dancers are embedded in it, and they activate it. Two of them are banging against each other with teeth painted on them, so the whole face comes alive. And the life of the face represents the life that I had on earth. All the marks in it represent all the things I did in my life as a symbolic gesture. And so the whole concept on another level is that people that we lose in our lives, they leave marks behind, and we don't really know them. We just know our perception of them. So it's all about us. They ignite something in us, and that's what the painting symbolises. Yeah.
I don't think you can do it again because you have to be part of it, don't you?
Well, I do. Well, I wrote it, and I directed it, and I had Stephen Agalissu was my choreographer, and Rob Tudor was my co-producer. I had great people around me, but the concept came from me, and as the main central character, it would be hard to teach someone how to do that, I think.
Now, you were part of a group exhibition, even though you do so many solo exhibitions, and it wasn't all that long ago, in a yoga studio here in St Kilda.
It's a gallery too.
As a gallery, and you had some horses in the exhibition, and tell us the story. What's happened with those horses?
Okay, I curated the exhibition as well, and
of course you did.
Well,
because you had nothing else to do.
No, it was hard though. I got to tell you. I put a few of my brand new horse heads out there. They're very psychedelic, kind of these horse heads, and somebody from the commission, or one of the heads of the Commission for the Protection of Racehorses, went to the show because I saw another horse image I'd done on the flyer. They decided to use it on the flyer. So he came in and fell in love with these horses, and then we began a collaboration. So now these horses that I did, this series of 5, they're using them Australia-wide, New Zealand and in New Zealand, to rebrand their organisation with them. So because their previous visuals they used were horses that had suffered, or real horses, But this rebranding is a massive change for them because it rebrands a celebration of horses. Because the images are really a celebration of the spiritual essence of a horse.
Yep.
All the horses have like 3 eyes, like to represent their spiritual eyes as well as their eyes. So it's saying these creatures are spiritual entities like we are, and they deserve to be treated with respect, not as just objects. Because the slaying of the horses in the horse industry is just terrible.
Yeah.
So that's been a great thing for me to be involved in.
And that's all happening now, and will be part of Spring Racing Carnival. And
all the protests will have banners with my horses on it, and flags and
Anthony,
T-shirts.
There's just so many things that keep on happening with your art. Yeah, like as you said, you put it out there, and people are drawn to what you're doing, aren't they?
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to kind of comprehend because I feel like I'm involved in it, but I'm not. Do you know what I mean? It's a very kind of trippy experience to have opportunities just keep arising in different areas all the time for me to do something that's useful to serve other people or other organisations. I've done heaps of big projects where I've got lots of people with mental health challenges, and when I had my own gallery in an old church that I developed over 3 years, and that was amazing because I ran free classes for disabled people, free classes for older people, free classes for people with mental health problems in drama and art, and it was amazing to be able to do something like that.
Yeah.
It gave me so much joy. So I don't look at it like, aren't I wonderful because I've done all this stuff to serve other people. It's so enriching for me to see the difference it makes, and the experience I've had on an emotional level is incredible. Just with this exhibition, I had a woman come in, she was a carer, she brought in this other woman who had severe multiple sclerosis. They arrived one day early. They got the dates mixed up for the opening. So they were in there, I heard them talking, and she said, we're one day early, oh my God. And we were all setting up, my little crew and the curator. And I heard her and I said, well, why don't you come in now and I'll show you around the show. It's not finished yet, it's still being set up. She came in and she was overwhelmed by the first room of all these huge paintings, to the point she burst into tears and started crying. And we ended up hugging each other. I'm crying with her, and the woman with MS in the wheelchair has got her arms wrapped around us. And those opportunities happen to me a lot. And they're gifts that you cannot put a price on. It's incredible, incredible.
So this exhibition, it's a huge one, solo exhibition, very ambitious.
Yeah, it was. I mean, when they offered me the whole space, the whole 3 galleries in this major art centre, I couldn't say no. No matter how compromised I was, I had to go for it. So it was like, I treated it like this is my NGV exhibition I'm never going to get. I wanted to do big sculptures, I wanted to do animation, I wanted to do this, I wanted to do that, light boxes. So I just went for it and did everything. Because on one hand, I also thought, you know what, this is probably the last big exhibition I'll ever do.
Do you think?
Well, I know that I've got multiple health problems, and even having a kidney transplant, that kidney could expire at any point. And when I've got this other problem now, that's pretty serious, and the doctors and the surgeons say to me, look, you're 55 years old, but biologically you're 75 years old. Anything that we do to you now, any more operations, there's a chance that you won't wake up from the operation. And if you do, you might end up being severely incapacitated for whatever day, how much longer you're going to live for.
So you're living every day for what you can get out of it.
Make the most of every day, because I know my time's finite.
So, and and overseas, you've got collectors that contact you all the time from overseas, wanting your work, but you're actually a little bit fussy, aren't you? Because some of them go, oh, we want this and we want to do it that way, and you go, no, hold on a minute.
Oh, there's been times when dealers in Australia have said to me, look, we want to buy all your work and we'll put it in the secondary market and up the price, and we'll make you really renowned in the Australian art market. And to me, but you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do things like the Myers windows, you can't do all the charity stuff. So I said, what's the point? It's not me. I don't want to. And let's face it, the art world's just a game. I did this experiment once where I did these 3 artworks, and I had an art dealer in St Kilda. She was great, and I was going to put her in a show with her, but I thought, I'm going to take them to Canmore Market. and see what happens.
Whoa.
So I took them to Camberwell Market, had them there.
Yeah.
They were cheap because it was Camberwell Market.
Yeah.
People come up to them and go, I really like these, but at Camberwell Market, because people expect to pay $5 for it, and they were $50 or something. They go, but they're a bit too expensive for me. And it's like the Banksy experiment that he did.
Yeah.
A similar thing, because it's all about the environment. So you can make something out to be the most precious object in history.
Yeah.
And if you and Damien Hirst is really great at this, but really, what's it worth? When people are starving and people are suffering, there's people living on the streets, how can you justify paying so much for a piece of art? Seriously. So in this show, I made a giant jigsaw puzzle, and I have got games of tic-tac-toe with my artwork. The kids are all playing them, and they're crawling around the floor, pulling the puzzle apart, because it's trying to say in the last room of the exhibition, it's just art. You can play with it. You can throw it around. It doesn't have to be over precious.
Yeah, and you can touch.
You can touch. All the kids. It was amazing to see the kids playing the puzzle or pulling it apart. It's like a metre by a metre on the ground.
Yeah. I've got to ask you, the 3 that you had at Camberwell Market, did they sell?
No. And when I told my art dealer what I did, she said, "Oh my God, what did you do that for?" And she didn't really understand. It was just a social experiment to see what would happen.
That is so funny, isn't it? Like that people will be watching this show and go, "Oh my God, I remember that." And
they sold in the show.
Yeah. Oh.
The funnier enough in St Kilda.
Wow.
For like a much higher price than $50.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show, it's still about environment.
Wow, Anthony, there was so much more we could talk about, but thank you for what you've achieved, your beautiful art, and how much you do for charity. You're a wonderful, very, very special person. So congratulations on who you are.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm David Hunt. This has been The Art Hunter, and what an amazing person sitting next to me. We'll be back again real soon. See ya.